Canada is known for its beauty, quality of life, and welcoming policies. But beyond the image lies a harsher reality. From rising homelessness to a strained healthcare system, many newcomers face challenges they never expected. Let's take a closer look at the side of Canada few talk about. Canada is wealthy, so why are so many still living in poverty? Often viewed as a symbol of prosperity and social welfare, Canada hides a less visible reality, one where economic hardship deeply affects a significant portion of its population. Although the country ranks high in global development indexes, poverty remains an everyday challenge for many, particularly single adults. Approximately 20% of individuals living alone face financial hardship, frequently cobbling together multiple low-wage, part-time jobs that lack stability, health insurance, or retirement benefits. Food insecurity has emerged as a critical concern. For many Canadians, especially those on limited incomes, food choices aren't a matter of preference, but of survival. It's not uncommon for individuals to skip meals just to afford rent or heating. Low-income single adults account for over 38% of food-insecure households, highlighting a growing gap between income levels and the basic cost of living. At the same time, the housing situation continues to deteriorate. In urban centers like Toronto and Vancouver, rental prices have reached unprecedented levels, forcing many to live in overcrowded or substandard conditions. Nearly 50% of single-adult renters are burdened by housing costs, often spending more than half of their earnings on rent alone. As affordable housing becomes scarce, shelters are stretched beyond capacity, and makeshift encampments, once rare, have now become a fixture in many public spaces. Perhaps the most distressing aspect is the disproportionate impact on Indigenous communities. In some municipalities, Indigenous peoples, despite comprising only about 5% of the national population, represent over 30% of those experiencing homelessness. This stark disparity reflects the ongoing impact of historical injustices and systemic inequality that remain deeply embedded in Canadian society. Immigrating to Canada is the dream as easy as it seems. Canada has built a global reputation as a land of opportunity, welcoming immigrants from every corner of the world. However, the journey to settle and thrive in the country often proves far more difficult than it appears on the surface. Delays in immigration processing are one of the most common obstacles. It can take nearly 2 years to finalize permanent residency applications, while temporary permits for work, study, or travel frequently face setbacks. These prolonged waiting periods, exacerbated by post-pandemic backlogs, have left many individuals and families caught in uncertainty, with their lives and plans hanging in the balance. For those who do manage to enter the country, the reality can be disheartening. Despite bringing valuable education and professional experience, many newcomers find themselves underemployed, often taking physically demanding, low-paying jobs unrelated to their expertise. Studies show that around 40% of skilled immigrants end up working in roles well below their qualifications, a trend that not only wastes potential, but also stifles career growth. Meanwhile, Canada's temporary foreign worker programs, especially in the agricultural sector, have come under scrutiny. Workers in these programs are sometimes housed in poor conditions and subjected to long hours with limited legal protections. Their immigration status is often directly linked to a single employer, making it difficult to report mistreatment or seek help without fear of deportation or job loss. Adding to the burden is the soaring cost of living. In 2023, the average monthly rent for a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Toronto exceeded $3,300 KD. For new arrivals, this kind of financial pressure can quickly overshadow initial hopes of stability, transforming the dream of building a new life into a constant struggle just to make ends meet. World-class healthcare. Then why are patients waiting for months? Canada's healthcare system is often held up as a global model of universal care, publicly funded, accessible to all, and built on the principle that no one should be denied treatment due to financial limitations. But for millions of residents, particularly newcomers and low-income individuals, the everyday experience is marked more by delay and exclusion than by seamless service. Wait times have reached record-breaking levels. By 2023, the average patient waited more than 6 months, approximately 27 weeks, from the time of a general practitioner's referral to receiving specialized care or undergoing surgery. In some provinces, such as Nova Scotia, these delays extend even further, with reported waits of 40 weeks or more, often leaving patients in pain, uncertainty, or at risk of complications. New immigrants, meanwhile, face additional barriers. In most provinces, a mandatory 3-month waiting period is enforced before public health care coverage begins. During this time, individuals must rely on private insurance or pay entirely out of pocket, even when faced with emergencies. This policy can leave families particularly vulnerable, especially those with limited financial resources upon arrival. Another pressing concern is the shortage of primary care physicians. Over 6 million Canadians currently do not have access to a regular family doctor. Without a consistent point of care, many are forced to seek treatment at overcrowded walk-in clinics or emergency departments, facilities already strained by high patient volumes and limited staff. Moreover, Canada's public plan does not fully cover health-related needs. Essential services such as dental care, vision exams, and prescription medications are often excluded from basic coverage, requiring additional insurance or direct payment. This gap in access highlights a growing divide between the ideal of universal health care and the day-to-day reality faced by many across the country. A history that still hurts. Canada's unfinished story with Indigenous peoples. Long before modern borders were drawn and cities took shape, the land now known as Canada was home to thriving Indigenous civilizations. First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities maintained distinct cultures, languages, and ways of life, deeply rooted in their relationship with the land. However, the arrival of European settlers marked the beginning of centuries of disruption, displacement, and systemic inequality. One of the most painful legacies of colonization is the residential school system. For over a century, thousands of Indigenous children were forcibly taken from their families and placed in institutions designed to assimilate them into European Canadian culture. These schools often forbade the use of Indigenous languages and practices, and many children endured neglect, emotional trauma, and physical abuse. The impact of this system continues to echo through generations, contributing to ongoing challenges in health, education, and community well-being. While Canada today embraces values of diversity and multiculturalism, the scars of this history remain evident. Indigenous communities continue to advocate for fundamental rights, such as access to clean drinking water, recognition of land titles, and equitable health care and education. In many areas, progress has been slow, and systemic barriers persist. Efforts toward reconciliation are underway, including public acknowledgements, compensation programs, and truth commissions. Yet, many Indigenous leaders emphasize that genuine change must go beyond symbolic gestures. It requires consistent action, respectful partnerships, and long-term commitment to justice and healing. A safe country. The rising crime stats say otherwise. Canada frequently ranks among the safest countries in the world, often praised for its low crime rates and peaceful cities. But in recent years, a series of high-profile incidents have raised new concerns about public safety, particularly in major metropolitan areas. Toronto, the nation's largest city, has witnessed a noticeable uptick in violent crime. In 2022 alone, the city reported 69 homicides and more than 1,000 violent incidents on its public transit system, an alarming rise compared to 669 incidents recorded just 3 years earlier. Among the most tragic cases was the fatal stabbing of a 16-year-old Brazilian student at a subway station, a heartbreaking reminder that even in a country known for its security, public spaces are not immune to violence. While Canada's overall crime rates remain significantly lower than those of many global cities, especially in comparison to urban centers like São Paulo or New York, the increase in gun-related offenses and unprovoked attacks has led to growing unease among both longtime residents and newcomers. These developments have sparked renewed conversations around mental health, policing, and public transportation safety, prompting city officials to implement new strategies to address the issue. Although Canada continues to be a comparatively safe destination, evolving challenges in urban areas suggest that safety cannot be taken for granted, even in places long considered secure. Canada's hidden beauty, wild places few ever see. Stretching from the Atlantic Ocean in the east to the Pacific in the west, and reaching deep into the Arctic Circle, Canada is a country defined by its vast, varied, and awe-inspiring landscapes. For all its social and economic complexities, the sheer scale and beauty of its geography remain among its most celebrated attributes. On the eastern shores, provinces like Nova Scotia and Newfoundland showcase rugged coastlines, lighthouses perched on cliffs, and fishing villages that speak to centuries of maritime heritage. Move inland, and the flat, open prairies of Manitoba and Saskatchewan unfold, Canada's agricultural heartland, where wheat fields stretch to the horizon and skies seem endless. To the west, the iconic Rocky Mountains rise dramatically, forming one of the continent's most photogenic natural backdrops. National parks such as Banff and Jasper draw millions each year, offering alpine lakes, glaciers, and abundant wildlife. Further north, the Arctic regions reveal a raw and untamed world, where polar bears roam, northern lights dance across the sky, and indigenous communities continue to live in harmony with their ancestral lands. Canada's four-season climate adds even more dimension to its terrain. Winters transform urban spaces like Ottawa and Montreal into winter wonderlands with ice-skating trails and snow-covered architecture. Spring in Vancouver is marked by cherry blossoms and mild temperatures. Summer invites locals and tourists alike to lakes, forests, and music festivals from coast to coast. Then comes autumn, when forests across Ontario and Quebec burst into brilliant shades of crimson and gold, one of the country's most beloved natural displays. In every season and region, Canada offers a unique experience, each landscape telling its own story, shaped by both nature and culture. Hope this gave you a more honest look at Canada, a beautiful country, but like anywhere else, it has its challenges. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit like, share it, and leave a comment below. Let's keep building a community that values real, useful information.